Howdy, folks. As night falls and shadows stretch, the world grows quiet, almost expectant. Tonight, we're turning down the lights and diving into 3 chilling, true mysteries. So grab a blanket, but don't get too comfortable. Once you hear these stories, the darkness may never feel the same. Let's begin. In southeastern Massachusetts lies the Hockomock Swamp, 17,000 acres of dense, misty wetlands, long shrouded in legend and fear. Named by the Algonquin as the place where spirits dwell, it's a land of ancient spirits, mysterious lights and chilling tales. From Puk-Wudgies to spectral black dogs, the swamp's legends endure, its secrets still lurking in the fog. The Hockomock Swamp sits at the very heart of an even larger area of high strangeness, a 200-square-mile region known to paranormal researchers as the Bridgewater Triangle. This informal designation, coined by cryptozoologist Lauren Coleman in the 1970s, encompasses several towns, including Abington, Rehoboth, and Freetown, and it is an absolute hotbed for virtually every kind of unexplained phenomenon you can imagine. We're not just talking about ghosts. We're talking about a full-spectrum paranormal buffet. If it's weird, it has probably been reported within the borders of the Bridgewater Triangle, with the Hockomock Swamp acting as its dark, beating heart. Think about it like this. Most places might have a local ghost story or a single monster legend. The Bridgewater Triangle, however, is like a paranormal Grand Central Station. Reports pour out of this area, detailing everything from UFO sightings and terrifying alien abductions to sightings of Bigfoot-like creatures crashing through the underbrush. There are documented cases of mysterious animal mutilations, where livestock are found surgically dissected with no tracks or evidence left behind. And, of course, there are the ghosts and spirits, which seem to be an almost constant presence, particularly in and around the ancient burial grounds scattered throughout the region. Within this triangle, you find specific locations that have become legendary in their own right. There's the Freetown Fall River State Forest, infamous for its connections to satanic cult activity and numerous murders, a place where visitors report an oppressive, malevolent atmosphere. There's Anawan Rock, a historic site where the Wampanoag chief Anawan surrendered, and where people now claim to hear the ghostly sounds of war cries and musket fire echoing through the trees. And then there's Profile Rock, a granite outcropping that once resembled the face of a Native American chief, which was considered a sacred site before it crumbled in 2019. An event many locals saw as a dark omen. All of these strange and sinister threads seem to converge on the Hockomock Swamp. It is the epicenter, the source from which this wave of high strangeness seems to emanate. Investigators and paranormal enthusiasts who have studied the area for years believe that there is something unique about the geology or the history of this specific piece of land that acts as a magnet or perhaps a window for these phenomena. It's as if the veil between our world and somewhere else is just exceptionally thin here, allowing all manner of bizarre and terrifying things to bleed through into our reality. Deep in the Hockomock Swamp, legends tell of a massive phantom black dog with glowing red eyes. Police officer Joseph DeAndrade once encountered this beast, huge, silent and unnatural, blocking his path before vanishing into the night. Many have seen it since. Some say It's a hellhound, guarding secrets older than the swamp itself. The Hockomock Swamp is home to more than just legends of phantom dogs. Witnesses have reported seeing gigantic bird-like creatures soaring above the trees. Known as thunderbirds, these creatures resemble prehistoric pterosaurs and inspire awe and fear. Their sightings add a deep, primal mystery to the Hockomock, blurring the line between myth and reality. Deep in the Hockomock, legend tells of the Pukwudgies, small, grey-skinned tricksters with big ears and noses. They're not friendly gnomes, but territorial magical beings who can vanish, control animals, and cause mischief. Wampanoag stories warn, to see one is a terrible omen. Even today, hikers report strange laughter, vanishing figures, and the feeling of being watched. The woods may hold secrets far older and stranger than we imagine. Beyond cryptid sightings, many who enter the Hockomock Swamp report something subtler, an overwhelming sense of dread, as if watched by a hostile, unseen force. The air grows heavy, the forest falls silent, and a primal fear takes hold. Many feel unwelcome, compelled to turn back. The true danger here isn't just physical, it's psychic, a terror that lingers long after you leave. As if the paranormal activity on the ground wasn't enough, the skies above the Hockomock Swamp and the wider Bridgewater Triangle are just as active. The region has been a hot spot for UFO sightings for over a century, with reports dating all the way back to the 19th century. But it was in the latter half of the 20th century that the sightings became so frequent and so strange that they couldn't be ignored. People weren't just seeing distant lights in the sky. They were having close encounters with bizarre, unidentified aircraft that moved in ways that defied the known laws of physics. One of the most famous incidents occurred in 1968. 5 people were driving near the town of Rehoboth when they saw a brilliant, glowing ball of light hovering over a field. As they watched, the object began to move, executing impossible right-angle turns and accelerating to incredible speeds in an instant, all without making a sound. The object reportedly paced their car for several minutes before shooting straight up into the night sky and disappearing. This was not a weather balloon or a conventional aircraft. The witnesses were adamant that they had seen something truly otherworldly. Another incredible event happened in 1994, witnessed by a Bridgewater town official. He was at home one evening when he saw a huge, triangular-shaped craft moving silently and slowly over the trees near his house. The craft was dark and massive, with bright lights at each of its 3 corners and a larger, pulsating red light in the center. He watched it for several minutes as it glided noiselessly over the neighborhood before it suddenly accelerated and vanished. This sighting is part of a larger wave of black triangle UFOs reported all over the world, but they seem to have a particular affinity for the Bridgewater Triangle. Some researchers have theorized that there's a direct link between the UFO phenomenon and the other paranormal activity in the swamp. Could the spirits and Pukwudgies of legend actually be extraterrestrial or interdimensional beings? Is it possible that the swamp is home to some kind of portal or gateway that these craft are using? It's a wild theory, but in a place as strange as the Hockomock, no explanation can be completely ruled out. The sheer volume and consistency of UFO reports add yet another layer of high strangeness to this already mystifying location, suggesting that the swamp's secrets may extend far beyond our own planet. With such a concentration of high strangeness and malevolent legends, it should come as no surprise that the Hockomock Swamp has also been the site of numerous unexplained disappearances and mysterious deaths over the years. This is, after all, a vast and treacherous wilderness. It would be easy for someone to get lost, to succumb to the elements, or fall into a hidden bog. But some of the cases associated with the swamp go beyond simple misadventure. They are tinged with the same element of the bizarre and the unsettling that characterizes all the other phenomena in the area. There are historical accounts dating back to the colonial era of settlers and soldiers who entered the swamp and were never seen again. Their horses might be found wandering on a nearby road, but the riders themselves would be gone without a trace. In more modern times, hikers have vanished on well-marked trails, sparking massive search efforts that turn up absolutely nothing. It's as if the swamp itself has the ability to swallow people whole, leaving no evidence behind. These cases fuel the local legends that the Pukwudgies or other spirits are responsible, luring victims deep into the morass to their doom. Beyond the disappearances, there are also the strange deaths. People have been found deceased within the swamp's borders under circumstances that defy easy explanation. In some cases, the cause of death is listed as exposure or heart attack, but the location and state of the body raise questions. For example, individuals have been found in remote, nearly inaccessible areas that it seems impossible they could have reached on their own, especially if they were in distress. There are also persistent, though largely unconfirmed, rumours of bodies being found with expressions of sheer terror frozen on their faces, with no apparent physical cause of death. This dark history contributes to the swamp's sinister reputation. It's one thing to hear stories about ghosts or see strange lights in the sky. It's another thing entirely to know that this place has a documented history of claiming human lives. It grounds the legends in a grim and terrifying reality. Every time someone enters the Hockomock Swamp, they are not just entering a place of myth and folklore. They are entering a place with a proven track record of danger. A place where the line between unexplained phenomena and real-world So, what is it about the Hockomock Swamp? What is the source of all this concentrated weirdness? Is it a geological anomaly, a place where magnetic fields are unusually strong, perhaps affecting human perception and allowing for strange phenomena to manifest? Some researchers have pointed to the large deposits of iron ore, specifically magnetite, beneath the swamp, suggesting this could warp the local electromagnetic field and create the conditions for paranormal events. It's a scientific theory for a supernatural problem, an attempt to rationalize the seemingly irrational. Or maybe the answer is more spiritual, more historical. This is ancient land, held sacred by the Wampanoag people for thousands of years. It was also the site of immense bloodshed and suffering during King Philip's War. Paranormal theory often suggests that strong emotions and traumatic events can leave a kind of psychic imprint on a location. Could the Hockomock Swamp be, in essence, a massive 17,000-acre haunted house, saturated with the residual energy of centuries of life, death, magic, and war? This could explain the feelings of dread and the sightings of spirits from a bygone era. Then there is the cryptozoological angle. Is it possible that the swamp's vast, inaccessible wilderness has allowed relict populations of creatures thought to be extinct, like pterosaurs, or undiscovered species, like Bigfoot, to survive hidden from the modern world? The idea of a lost world existing in the middle of one of America's most densely populated states is staggering. But the consistent eyewitness testimony forces us to at least consider the possibility. The swamp is large enough and dense enough that a creature could, theoretically, live its entire life without being definitively discovered. Ultimately, there is no single easy answer for the mysteries of the Hockomock Swamp. It remains an enigma, a place where the boundaries of our understanding of the world seem to dissolve. It's a convergence point for ghosts, cryptids, UFOs and dark energies, a real-life place where spirits dwell. The stories that come out of this swamp are a chilling reminder that there are still places in our world that are truly wild. Not just in a natural sense, but in a supernatural one. And it serves as a warning that some places are best left alone, their secrets left undisturbed in the dark, murky water. Our next story takes us from the haunted swamps of America to the frozen, desolate slopes of the Ural Mountains in Soviet Russia. In 1959, 9 experienced hikers set out for Otterton Mountain, led by Igor Dyatlov. They braved the harsh Siberian winter, documenting their journey with photos and diaries. Their optimism shines through until they reach Dead Mountain, a place steeped in ominous legend. The group's final camp remains a chilling mystery to this day.
Perfect.
The location where the Dyatlov group chose to make their final camp is the first major mystery in this baffling case. They were experienced hikers, and they pitched their tent on an exposed slope of Kolatsyakhl in the direct path of howling Siberian winds. Just about a mile away, down in the valley, was a forested area that would have provided natural shelter from the elements. Why would a group of seasoned mountaineers, led by the capable Igor Dyatlov, make such a fundamental and dangerous mistake? It's a question that has plagued investigators from the very beginning. Some have theorized that they were running out of daylight and simply had to make camp where they were. Others suggest that Dyatlov may have wanted to practice camping on an open slope as part of their training for the difficult trek. But even so, the decision seems inexplicably poor. The weather that day had been worsening, with high winds and blowing snow, a condition the Russians call purga. Setting up camp in such an exposed location would have been a cold, miserable, and potentially life-threatening choice. It was a decision that went against all of their training and experience. Whatever the reason, they pitched their tent, likely had a small meal, and settled in for the night. The last photo recovered from one of their cameras shows them preparing the campsite, the snow being pushed around to create a level surface. From this point on, what happened to the 9 hikers is a matter of terrifying speculation, pieced together from the bizarre and horrific evidence they left behind. Sometime during the night of February 1st or the early morning of February 2nd, something happened on that desolate mountainside. Something so terrifying that it caused these 9 experienced hikers to do the unthinkable. The group was scheduled to send a telegram to their sports club no later than February 12th, upon their return to the town of Vijay. When the 12th came and went with no word, there wasn't immediate concern. Delays were common on such difficult expeditions. However, as more days passed and silence persisted, the families of the hikers grew worried and demanded that a search party be sent. On February 20th, a volunteer search operation was launched. It was this search party that would stumble upon a scene so strange and so horrifying that it would defy all logical explanation. On February 26th, more than 3 weeks after the hikers were last heard from, the search party finally spotted something on the snowy slope of Kholat Shakal. It was the group's tent, but something was very, very wrong. The tent was half buried in snow and appeared to be completely abandoned. As the searchers got closer, a sense of dread began to creep in. The scene was eerily quiet, with no signs of life, only the constant whistling of the wind across the empty mountain. The silence was a stark and terrifying contrast to the vibrant life captured in the hikers' photos just a few weeks earlier. Upon examining the tent, the mystery only deepened. It was clear that the hikers had left in an extreme hurry. All of their belongings, their warm clothing, their boots, their food, their axes, and even their money, were all neatly arranged inside the tent. It was as if they had been in the middle of settling down for the night when they suddenly fled. But the most bizarre and chilling discovery was how they had exited the tent. The entrance was still fastened shut from the inside. The hikers had not unlaced their tent to leave. Instead, they had used a knife to slash and rip their way out from the inside. Think about what that means. 9 experienced hikers in the middle of a brutal Siberian winter night, with temperatures plummeting to as low as -30 degrees Celsius, were so panicked by something outside their tent that they chose to cut their way out, rather than take the few extra seconds to untie the entrance. They then fled into the sub-zero darkness without stopping to put on their shoes or their heavy winter coats. This was not a rational decision. This was an act of pure, unadulterated terror. The question that immediately hung in the frigid air was, what could possibly frighten them that badly? The searchers were baffled. There were no signs of a struggle inside or outside the tent. There were no indications of an avalanche, which was the initial theory. The tent was not crushed, and the pattern of the cuts suggested they were made deliberately by those inside. It was simply an abandoned camp, with all the group's vital survival gear left behind. It was a scene that screamed of sudden, inexplicable panic. The searchers now had a grim task ahead of them: to follow the tracks leading away from the tent and discover the fate of the 9 missing hikers. The search party found a single line of footprints leading from the slashed tent into the snow. Strangely, the hikers walked calmly, many barefoot or in socks, despite the deadly cold. At the forest's edge, under a cedar tree, they found a small fire, and the first 2 bodies, stripped to their underwear, with raw, scraped hands. The discovery of the first 2 bodies under the cedar tree was just the beginning of the horror. The search party, now grimly aware of the tragedy that had unfolded, continued their search. They soon found 3 more bodies, located at intervals between the cedar tree and the abandoned tent. These were the bodies of Igor Dyatlov, Zinaida Kolmogorova, and Rustem Slobodin. It appeared that these 3 had died while attempting to make their way back up the treacherous, windswept slope towards the relative shelter of their tent. Igor Dyatlov, the group's leader, was found lying on his back, his head pointing in the direction of the tent. He was clutching a single birch branch in one hand, and his other arm was raised as if to shield his face from a blow. He was better dressed than the two by the fire, but still woefully under-equipped for the conditions. It was a tragic and poignant final image. The leader dying in the snow, trying to get back to the safety he had so inexplicably fled just hours before. The posture of his body suggested a final, desperate struggle against an unseen force. About 300 meters away from Dyatlov, the searchers found the body of Rustem Slobodin. He was lying face down in the snow, also seemingly on a path back towards the tent. He had a small fracture in his skull, though doctors later concluded it was not a fatal injury, and that he, too, had died of hypothermia. The skull fracture is another piece of the puzzle that doesn't quite fit. How did he sustain that injury? Did he fall and hit his head in the dark? Or was he struck by something? His determined crawl back towards the tent, even with a head injury, speaks volumes about his will to survive. The final body found in this group was that of Zinaida Kolmogorova, the most determined of them all. She was found the farthest up the slope, closer to the tent than any of the others. Her body showed signs of a desperate, final struggle. She had clearly fought to the very end, crawling through the snow, inch by inch, trying to reach the tent that held the key to her survival. The image of these three dying alone in the vast empty snowscape, trying to undo their fatal decision to flee, is one of the most heartbreaking aspects of this entire tragedy. For more than 2 months, the fate of the remaining 4 hikers remained a mystery. The snow was deep, and the search was, honestly, just slow and arduous. The 5 bodies that had been found all had a clear cause of death: hypothermia. While the circumstances were bizarre, the medical explanation was straightforward. But what the searchers would find next would change everything. It would transform the case from a tragic hiking accident into a truly terrifying and inexplicable horror story. In early May, as the snow began to melt, the search party discovered the final 4 bodies. They were found about 75 meters away from the cedar tree, further into the woods, buried under more than 10 feet of snow in a ravine. The hikers had apparently dug a small snow cave, a den, in a desperate attempt to shelter from the elements. This showed forethought and survival instinct. They had even taken some of the clothes from the first 2 who had died by the fire, Krivonishenko and Doroshenko, in an attempt to keep warm. But it was the nature of their injuries that would shock the investigators and turn the entire case on its head. These were not injuries consistent with hypothermia or a simple fall. Lyudmila Dubinina and Semyon Zolotaryov had suffered massive, crushing chest fractures. The medical examiner compared the force required to cause such injuries to that of being hit by a car. These were not external injuries. Their skin was unbroken. It was as if they had been subjected to an immense crushing pressure. Nikolai Thibault Brignol had suffered a severe, fatal skull fracture, again with no corresponding external wound. These were violent, brutal injuries that simply could not be explained by the environment. And then there was the most grotesque and disturbing discovery of all. Lyudmila Dubinina was found with her tongue, eyes, and part of her lips missing. Semyon Zolotaryov was also missing his eyes. Alexander Kolevatov, the 4th body in the den, had died of hypothermia but was found with his neck strangely deformed. The initial explanation for the missing soft tissues was putrefaction and scavenging by small animals in the wet environment of the ravine. However, the sheer strangeness of these specific injuries, particularly Dubinina's missing tongue, has fueled a host of darker, more sinister theories for decades. The Dyatlov Pass tragedy left behind evidence that defies explanation. Radiation was found on the hikers' clothing, and witnesses reported strange orange orbs in the sky. The final blurry photograph, frame 34, shows a chaotic light and shadow, deepening the mystery of what truly happened that night.
Perfect.
For over 60 years, investigators, journalists, and amateur sleuths have tried to piece together what happened on that mountain. The theories range from the plausible to the utterly fantastic. The initial and for a long time official explanation was that the group was the victim of a compelling natural force. This vague conclusion only served to fuel more speculation. The most common natural explanation proposed is an avalanche. However, this theory has been largely debunked. The slope was not steep enough for a major avalanche, the tent was not crushed, and the hikers' own tracks were still visible in the snow days later. A more nuanced version of this theory is a slab avalanche, where a small plate of snow could have slid down and hit the tent, causing a panic. This might explain why they cut their way out, fearing they were about to be buried. They then fled to the tree line to wait for the danger to pass. But in their panicked state, they got separated, and some succumbed to the cold before they could return. The severe injuries of the last four are explained by them falling into the ravine in the dark. This is perhaps the most rational explanation, but it still doesn't quite account for the strange lights in the sky or the radiation. Then there are the more conspiratorial and paranormal theories. The military weapons test theory is a popular one. It suggests the hikers were accidental witnesses to a secret test, and the massive internal injuries were caused by a concussion blast. The military then covered up the incident, possibly even cleaning up the scene and moving the bodies to create a confusing narrative. This would explain the radiation and the swift, inconclusive end to the official investigation. But again, there's no hard evidence of a military presence or an explosion. And of course, there are the more outlandish theories. Was it a UFO encounter? Did the strange orange spheres seen in the sky have something to do with the hikers' deaths? Or was it something even stranger? Some have suggested an attack by a creature, a Russian Yeti or Menk, which could explain the crushing force of the injuries. Others point to the local Mansi legends of vengeful spirits on Dead Mountain. And some even propose infrasound-induced panic, where low-frequency sound waves generated by wind patterns could have caused intense, irrational fear in the hikers, driving them out into the cold. In 2019, Russian authorities reopened the case in an attempt to finally put the mystery to rest. After reviewing the evidence, they concluded that a small slab avalanche was indeed the most likely culprit. Their official narrative is that a small slide hit the tent, forcing the panicked hikers to flee. In the darkness and chaos, they became separated. Some died of hypothermia while trying to return to the tent, while the others fell into the ravine and were crushed by the weight of the snow above them. The case, they declared, was closed. But for many, this explanation leaves too many questions unanswered. It feels too neat, too simple for a case with so many bizarre and contradictory elements. It doesn't explain the strange lights in the sky. It doesn't fully account for the lack of external trauma on the bodies with massive internal injuries. It doesn't explain the missing tongue and eyes, even if scavenging animals are a possibility. And it doesn't capture the sheer, palpable terror that must have existed on that mountainside. The force that drove 9 experienced mountaineers to abandon their shelter and run, half naked, into a deathly Siberian night. The story of the Dyatlov Pass incident endures because it is a perfect mystery. Every piece of evidence seems to contradict another. The panicked exit from the tent, followed by the calm walk down the hill. The lack of a struggle, but the presence of horrific, violent injuries. The scientific evidence of radiation and the eyewitness accounts of strange, fiery spheres. It's a puzzle with too many pieces that just don't fit, no matter how you try to arrange them. It's a story that forces us to confront the limits of our own understanding. And so the slopes of Kholat Shakhl, Dead Mountain, keep their secret. The 9 hikers who died there remained frozen in time, their final moments a subject of endless fascination and horror. Whatever they encountered that night, whether it was a force of nature, a secret of man, or something else entirely, it was powerful enough to turn a challenging adventure into an incomprehensible nightmare. The Dyatlov Pass incident is a chilling reminder that there are some places in the world where the questions are far more terrifying than any possible answer. Imagine you're a radio operator in the late 1940s sailing the Strait of Malacca. Suddenly, a frantic SOS crackles through the static. The sender, SS Orang Medan. The chilling message, all officers including captain are dead. Then 2 final words, I die. Silence follows, leaving the fate of the ghost ship forever shrouded in mystery. The distress call from the Orang Medan was picked up by ships and listening posts nearby. The American merchant vessel Silver Star responded, racing toward the coordinates. As they approached, the Orang Medan floated eerily still. No smoke, no crew, only silence. With dread, the Silver Star's crew prepared to board, ready to face the chilling mystery of the ghost ship. The Silver Star's crew stepped onto the Orang Medan and found a nightmare. Bodies of the Dutch crew lay everywhere, frozen in terror, arms outstretched as if fending off an unseen horror. Even the captain and radio operator died at their posts, faces twisted in fear. No wounds, no struggle, just a silent, haunting tableau. The boarding party knew they had to escape this cursed ship. As the boarding party from the Silver Star explored the Orang Medan, they were struck by an unnatural cold deep within the ship, so intense their breath misted in the air. The chilling atmosphere filled them with dread, as if they were being watched by unseen eyes. Convinced the ship was cursed, they quickly decided to tow it away, desperate to escape the horrors lurking in the freezing darkness. After discovering the lifeless crew and feeling an unnatural cold, the Silver Star's sailors tried to tow the Orang Medan to safety. But a strange yellow-green smoke billowed from the ghost ship's hold. Suddenly, a massive explosion tore through the Orang Medan, sending it and its secrets to the depths, leaving only mystery behind. After the Orang Medan's fiery end, investigators searched for answers. What was this ship, and why did it vanish so mysteriously? There was no official record of the SS Orang Medan. No registration, no crew lists, nothing. It was as if the ship appeared out of thin air, then vanished just as mysteriously. Some believe it was a cover for illicit cargo, dangerous enough to destroy the ship and its crew. With the ship in pieces at the bottom of the sea, investigators have only theories. Some say a chemical cargo leaked, suffocating the crew and causing the explosion. Others claim it's all a ghost story, a legend passed from sailor to sailor. Yet the chilling details remain. Mystery, frozen in time. When conventional explanations fail, we turn to the unexplainable. UFOs, ghosts, and the supernatural. The Orang Medan's mystery has inspired wild theories. Alien attacks, deadly energy weapons, and ghostly forces. Some say a UFO or supernatural entity struck, leaving the crew terrified, frozen, and dead without a mark. The chilling final message, "I die," remains, fueling the legend of a ghost ship lost to unearthly forces. The SS Orang Medan remains a chilling enigma. Was it a chemical leak, a supernatural force, or just a legend? The frozen terror on the crew's faces, the unnatural cold, and the lack of records only deepen the mystery. With the ship lost to the depths, its secrets are forever buried beneath the waves. The story of the Orang Medan, the haunting of Hockomock Swamp, and the Dyatlov Pass remind us that our world is filled with dark corners and chilling mysteries. These aren't just stories. They're real events, real people, and real terror. As you turn off the lights tonight, you might find yourself thinking about them. Will you be able to sleep tonight? Or will every creak sound like a footstep in the dark? If you enjoyed these stories, please like and subscribe for more journeys into the strange, dark, and mysterious. Thanks for watching, and try to get some sleep, if you can.